folks, to today's episode of BattleTech Simplified. I'm Michael Shockman, I'll be your host and commentator, and in today's episode we will be covering the first of the 5 great houses of the Inner Sphere, one of the most fracturing and divisive houses in the fandom. Today we will be covering the Capellan Confederation. After the end of the Hegemony-Supremacy War, the Capellan Commonalty was formed in 2310 as a loose federation of all the major powers occupying the Capellan zone. In the midst of House Davian's peacekeeping operation, the heads of the major Capellan powers met on Saint Andre in July of 2367. There, Duke Franco Liao of the Duchy of Liao made a radical proposal, that being to dissolve the commonalty and unify the entire Capellan zone under a centralized authority strong enough to resist foreign intervention. After much debate, the motion was adopted and the Capellan Confederation was born. The Capellan Confederation enjoyed great prosperity with the peace brought about by the Star League, but it was not to last, unfortunately. Under the outbreak of the Star League Civil War, Chancellor Barbara Liao adopted a position of armed neutrality, allowing neither Alexander Kerensky nor Stefan Amaris forces to enter Capellan territory. With the dissolution of the Council and the self-imposed exile of Kerensky and the Star League Defense Force, the succession wars became inevitable. The First Succession War began in December of 2786, and the Confederation made large gains by occupying worlds of the foreign Terran hegemony, most of which fell peacefully, and launching attacks against the Free Worlds League and Federated Suns. The First Succession War finally came to an end in 2821 with a ceasefire between the Liao and Davian realms. The start of the Second Succession War in 2828 was inauspicious, as Lisa Liao became the first chancellor killed in combat, personally commanding the rear guard after a failed invasion of Orbasonia. A ceasefire was achieved in 2862 when Dainmar Liao agreed to humiliating concessions to the Federated Suns, but peace only lasted a few more years before the Third Succession War began. Towards the end of the Third Succession War, the Confederation turned towards subterfuge where force no longer worked. Chancellor Maximilian Liao helped to spark Anton's revolt in the Free Worlds League and began plotting with Michael Hasek Davian to achieve the same within the Federated Suns. However, the Fourth Succession War helped cut the conspiracy off at the knees, and the Confederation found itself the target of the newly christened Federated Commonwealth. The Capellan Confederation was nearly destroyed in the Fourth Succession War, and what worlds it didn't lose to the FedCom alliance broke away to form their own splinter states, the Tikhonov Free Republic and St. Ives Compact being among them. Though severely weakened, the Confederation survived the Endurian crisis, which helped to improve morale within its military, and it was untouched by the clan invasion, giving the realm more time to rebuild itself. When it came time to deal with the clan problem once and for all, Sun Tzu was elected to become the first lord of the Second Star League, a largely ceremonial position, but one which brought further prestige to the state. Under the leadership of Sun Tzu and then his son Daoshen Liao, the Capellan Confederation steadily grew in strength. It expanded its territories and reclaimed the lost Capellan worlds. after which the Capellan Confederation came out of the Jihad era in better condition than its rivals, with its industrial complex having suffered far fewer losses. Proportionally, the Capellan armed forces had been rebuilt and turned into the Inner Sphere's most armed military force, one that was well trained and motivated, a force that was, offensively, the most powerful in the Inner Sphere. The Capellan Confederation is now one of the Inner Sphere's primary powers, and perhaps a threat to the Inner Sphere itself. As for a couple of small facts about the military of the Capellan Confederation, folks. Uh, for the longest time, they didn't have the infrastructure. During the early days, they didn't have the infrastructure to make a lot of heavy mechs, much less any assault mechs. So, one of the key mechs that they made was that they kind of cobbled together from a couple of other cannibalized designs from the Fall of the Star League and a couple other places. Was a mech known as the Cataphract. That was their first official, uh, quote unquote, um, uh, assault mech. I think technically it's a heavy mech, but it has it's kind of vague therein, but I believe it's an assault mech. Anyway, uh, the Cataphract was kind of viewed as a Franken mech and was not fast enough to really keep up with its competitors, was not heavily armored enough to take a lot of damage, and was not heavily armed enough to be able to do a significant amount of damage. But as a benchmark for being able to cobble something together to be able to fend off forces in large amounts, kind of a good thing. Um, yeah. Anyway, folks, that's gonna about do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining me in this little quick dive into the history of the Capellan Confederation. Hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a comment down below and tell me, do you guys think that the Capellans are dirtbags, or do you think that they are honorable, uh, wayward sons and daughters of the Inner Sphere? Let me know down below. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for joining me. If you haven't already, please consider liking the video, smashing the like button, hitting the subscribe button, and also ringing the bell icon so you never miss out when our live videos go live on YouTube. Last but not least, check out the links down in the description. Thank you so much. I'm Michael Shockman, folks. I've been your host and commentator, and until next time, remember, as always, no guts, no galaxy. Later, everybody.